Welcome to this comprehensive share of search analysis brought to you by insightsZ. In today's competitive landscape, understanding your brand's visibility and market penetration is paramount. This presentation will dissect the share of search landscape across a wide range of global markets, revealing key trends, competitive positioning, and crucial strategic implications for orthodontic liner brands. We've combined data-driven analytics with expert interpretation to provide a definitive guide. Let's dive in. Globally, Invisalign continues to occupy the #1 spot in terms of share of search market. And despite numerous competitors entering the space, Invisalign's share of search has grown by more than 45% within the last 12 months alone, beating our earlier estimates. However, the battle for the second and third spots in the market continues to be highly dynamic as brands actively compete to strengthen their market position and capture greater share of search. Let's check out how these brands are performing too. The insightsZ share of search analysis reveals a complex picture. While established players continue to maintain strongholds, newer and regional brands are clearly making inroads, demonstrating the opportunity for agile and targeted marketing approaches. Understanding these shifts is essential for sustaining a competitive advantage. The share of search is a crucial indicator of brand awareness and consumer interest, even acting as a predictor for future commercial success. It represents the percentage of searches within a specific keyword category that a particular brand captures. This key metric almost always serves as a predictor for market share development.
Here's a quick overview of the limitations of our analytics model. First, DTC brands and OEMs, or white label manufacturers, are outside the scope of this study. Secondly, any estimations related to market share development are inherently vulnerable to a variety of external and internal risks. Thirdly, the model primarily relies on analytics derived from Google Search, YouTube, Google Images, and Google News. Data from other widely used search engines such as Bing, DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, Baidu, etc. are not included in our study. This may skew insights, particularly in regions where Google does not hold dominant market share.
Fourthly, geographic limitations and non-Google search engine dominance. Countries where Google is not the primary search engine, such as China, Baidu, Russia, Yandex, Iran, and North Korea, have been excluded from this study due to data inaccessibility. Even in countries like Japan and South Korea, where alternatives such as Yahoo Japan and Naver respectively dominate, analytics derived solely from Google platforms may not accurately reflect local user behavior. Fifth, the model does not incorporate offline data sources, such as point-of-sale transactions, retail footfall, or consumer panel data. As a result, it may underrepresent behaviors or preferences that are not strongly expressed through online search activity. Sixth, search-based analytics are often reactive and can be influenced by short-term news cycles, marketing campaigns, or viral content. This temporal volatility can lead to misleading signals unless data is contextualized with external events or normalized over longer timeframes. Now let's explore our share of search analytics to gain insights into brand visibility and performance across leading markets worldwide.
Now let's look at U.S. web search stats for top clear aligner brands. Over years, Invisalign has continued to occupy #1 spot in the country's share of search market, leading all other brands by a significant margin. Dominating the country's share of search market, Invisalign's share has increased by almost 50% since mid-2024.
Yet other contenders like SureSmile, ClearCorrect, and Angel Aligner are making notable gains, fueled by shifting consumer preferences and targeted marketing campaigns. X-Ray's SureSmile has taken over the #2 spot in the U.S. share of search market,
after it dethroned Straumann Group's ClearCorrect in mid-2021. Among recent market entrants, China-based Angel Aligner has succeeded in gaining a significant share of search in the U.S. market, demonstrating a strong brand traction in the last 24 months after the brand entered the U.S. market in Q4 2024. Turning our attention to Canada, insightsZ data indicates that Invisalign continues to lead the country's share of search landscape. The brand's sustained performance underscores its strong market presence and enduring consumer relevance. Dentsply Sirona's SureSmile continues to retain its number 2 position in the country's share of search market, whereas ClearCorrect, Spark Aligner, and Aligner Co. are all fiercely battling out for the number 3 spot.
Mirroring the North American share of search stats, Invisalign continues to dominate the UK market too, occupying the number 1 spot in the country's search market. The brand's share of search has demonstrated strong growth in H1 2025, beating our earlier estimates.
When it comes to followers, Straumann Group's ClearCorrect stands strong in the number 2 spot, while X-Ray's SureSmile and Invista Holdings' Spark Aligner are locked in a tight race for 3rd place.
Moving on to Germany, our findings weren't significantly different in the sense that Invisalign continued to occupy the number 1 spot, leading all other clear aligner brands in the country by a significant margin. It's also worth acknowledging that Straumann Group's Dr. Smile's share of search has almost become inexistent after the Swiss manufacturer dabbled with Plus Dental, which was later merged under Dr. Smile brand, before eventually it was sold off to Barcelona-based Impress Group, even though Straumann Group retains 20% equity in the new entity. Leading major aligner brands such as SureSmile, Spark Aligner, and ClearCorrect are all battling it out for the number 2 spot in Germany's share of search market. However, once again, Angel Aligner has succeeded in demonstrating strong traction during the last 18 months, overlapping with the brand's entry in the German market and in line with insightsZ's predictive analysis outcome. Moving on to France, Invisalign continues its reign, leveraging its brand strength consistently. However, it's also worth acknowledging that other brands are starting to emerge, signaling a potential shift in the competitive dynamic. The French market, while loyal to established brands, remains receptive to innovation. Home-brewed aligner brand Smilers shows promising potential, warranting close observation of their market performance, especially as it continues to retain its number 2 spot in the country's share of search rankings. Invista Holdings' Spark Aligner maintains a steady position at number 3. However, rising competition emphasizes the need for continuous strategic adaptation, especially as SureSmile tries to catch up fast. Moving on to Italy, the country's share of search demonstrates consistent brand loyalty to Invisalign, clearly reflecting a preference for established and reliable options. Overall, the market appears stable, with limited disruption from emerging brands. SureSmile and Spark continue to compete closely for the number 2 position in the share of search market. The homebrewed brand Nuvola briefly gained momentum in H1 23, but declined thereafter. Occupying the number 4 spot, ClearCorrect has demonstrated particularly strong growth in recent periods. However, we suspect that it's potentially linked to performance marketing. Last but not least, Angel Aligner has shown solid traction in H1 25, signaling rising market interest. Let's now turn our attention to Spain. The country's share of search trends mirror those observed in Italy, highlighting a clear brand preference for Invisalign. Although alternative brands are present in the market, they have yet to meaningfully challenge Invisalign's dominant position. In Spain, SureSmile and Spark remain in close contention for the 2nd position in share of search. indicating an ongoing battle for visibility and consumer consideration behind Invisalign. The locally developed brand, Geniova, has demonstrated strong growth momentum, overtaking ClearCorrect and reinforcing the value of localized market strategies. Angel Aligner's steady upward trajectory over the past 3 years signals increasing brand awareness and adoption potential, while Smiler's declining performance suggests challenges in sustaining brand relevance and differentiation within a competitive landscape.
Turning to Switzerland, the analytics reveal a trend consistent with those observed in Italy and Spain, a strong consumer preference for Invisalign, and a relatively stable market landscape. While alternative brands are present, they have yet to meaningfully challenge Invisalign's dominant market position.
In Switzerland, web search interest among leading dental aligner brands shows notable shifts over time. From 2020 through 2021, homegrown brand Best Smile held a dominant share of search activity before gradually losing traction and shutting down in late 2024. Since then, SureSmile, ClearCorrect, and Spark Aligner have competed closely for the number 2 and 3 positions, each showing periodic surges in visibility. Meanwhile, Angel Aligner has maintained only a minimal presence, with its share of search remaining insignificant throughout the observed period.
Changing focus to Brazil, the dental aligner market presents a highly competitive landscape, with multiple brands actively contending for share of search. Invisalign's dominance is comparatively weaker than in other markets, indicating greater consumer openness to alternative solutions and a more dynamic competitive environment. In Brazil, web search trends highlight the steady ascent of SoSmile, a homegrown brand that has emerged as a dominant player and now holds the leading position just behind Invisalign. SureSmile has struggled to sustain market relevance, while ClearCorrect has maintained a consistent presence in the 3rd position. More recently, Angel Aligner has begun to gain traction, with its share of search showing gradual but noticeable growth over time.
Moving on to Mexico, the country's share of search mirrors Brazil's competitive landscape, with multiple brands actively competing for consumer search attention. While Invisalign maintains a solid presence, it does not exhibit the same level of dominance observed in other markets.
Spark Aligner has solidified its position as the 2nd most searched aligner brand, following Invisalign. ClearCorrect has steadily strengthened its market presence, now clearly securing the 3rd position. In contrast, the homegrown brand Moons Dentales, once a prominent local contender, has experienced a consistent decline in search interest, rendering it largely insignificant in recent years.
In Australia, Invisalign continues to maintain a commanding lead in share of search, with overall trends remaining relatively stable. Its dominance is supported by strong brand recognition and a robust marketing presence. To gain traction, competitor brands will need to adopt targeted marketing strategies and value-driven campaigns to effectively engage Australian consumers. In Australia, SureSmile retains its position as the 2nd most searched aligner brand, while Spark Aligner has clearly surpassed other competitors to claim the 3rd spot. ClearCorrect continues to experience a gradual decline in visibility, reflecting a sustained downward trend in recent years. Meanwhile, Angel Aligner has begun to gain traction, becoming increasingly prominent in the search landscape by the first half of 2025. In the Japanese share of search market, Invisalign maintains its position as the leading brand in the country, demonstrating strong brand recall. Overall trends, however, remain relatively flat, indicating a maturing market. It's worth acknowledging that in Japan, alternative search engines such as Yahoo Japan dominate, and our analytics derived solely from Google platforms may not fully capture local user behavior.
The Turkish share of search market presents a slightly different picture. While Invisalign retains its #1 position, the competitive environment is notably more dynamic.
The presence of Orthero, a local Turkish brand, in the #2 spot demonstrates the power of regional brands catering to specific consumer preferences. This underscores the importance of localized marketing strategies and understanding the nuances of the Turkish online search environment for global and local brands alike.
India presents a fascinating case, with both Invisalign and insightsZ battling for the #1 position in the country's share of search market. This reflects a rapidly growing market with a diverse range of consumer preferences and price sensitivities. The emergence of insightsZ, a direct-to-consumer brand, highlights the increasing demand for affordable and convenient orthodontic solutions, a significant shift in consumer behavior.
Another domestic clear aligner brand, Illusion Aligners, have long held the #3 position, but are now losing ground to Whistle Aligners, a brand backed by the country's largest DSO, Clove Dental. Over time, Whistle Aligners have gained strong traction, moving into the top tier of search interest, while Invista Holdings' Spark Aligner and another local player, Flash Aligners, maintain only limited visibility in the market.